Drake is finished, and this time there is no coming back. A track just exploded onto the internet, and on this thing, he is going nuclear on Kendrick Lamar, Schoolboy Q, Serena Williams, and that is just the beginning. This is not just a diss track. This is a full-blown psychological breakdown wrapped in auto-tune. This is the crash-out anthem of all crash-out anthems. The Iceman rollout just became a 5-alarm catastrophe, and the internet is absolutely losing its mind over what it's hearing. Because the same man who literally tried to weaponize the court system to escape rap beef is now sliding out of the shadows, dropping diss bars like he didn't just humiliate himself in front of the entire culture. And if you think that makes him the single biggest hypocrite to ever touch a microphone in the history of this entire genre, trust me, you are far from alone. Everybody thought they had Drake figured out going into this Iceman rollout. The cryptic leaks, the suspicious delays, the dead energy surrounding the entire project. People convinced themselves he was going to play it quiet, keep his head down, maybe claw back some goodwill after getting absolutely dismantled by Kendrick last year. That was the storyline everyone believed. Then, like a grenade thrown through a glass window, a brand new snippet surfaced, a few seconds of a brand new song, and those few seconds just detonated the entire narrative into dust. Because Drake is not playing it safe. He is not keeping his head down. He is dissing, aggressively, by name, with zero hesitation and zero self-awareness. And the targets on this track are going to make your jaw completely disconnect from your face. So if you think Kendrick Lamar and Schoolboy Q would both destroy Drake in any rap battle happening right now, leave a like. If you think this melting ice cube disaster called Iceman is sprinting toward the most catastrophic flop in hip-hop history, leave a like. And if you genuinely believe Drake is the worst decision-maker currently operating in all of hip-hop, leave a like. Because by the time we finish tearing this thing apart bar by bar, you will not believe what this man has done to his own legacy. Subscribe, smash that bell, let's go. Let's talk about exactly what just happened, because it is wild. Over the last few hours, a brand new snippet from Drake's upcoming Iceman album detonated across the internet. Now, according to Drake's camp, and specifically academics and the people orbiting that whole circus, all of these leaks are allegedly coming from hackers, people who supposedly stole the album and are drip-feeding it to the public against Drake's wishes. That's the version they're selling. But here's the cold, uncomfortable truth. Whether Drake is strategically releasing these himself to inject life into a project that has zero cultural momentum, or whether it genuinely is hackers pulling the trigger, the result is identical. These bars exist. The world has heard them. They are out there, and they are a catastrophe. Let me walk you through exactly what was said. First, Drake goes after Serena Williams. He says, "Serena, but I'm cool with Venus. I be hanging around those like I'm Dua Lipa." Let that breathe. He's talking about one of the most decorated, most iconic, most celebrated athletes in the history of human civilization, a woman who has nothing to do with rap, no involvement, no dog in this fight, and he's dragging her name into a petty music beef again, while also throwing Venus under the bus, trying to manufacture some fake family tension between two iconic sisters who built an empire together. And this is not his first offense. Back in 2022, on Middle of the Ocean from Her Loss, he called Serena's husband a groupie. That was already messy and unnecessary, but now he's escalating. He's dragging Venus in. He's trying to wedge himself between two iconic sisters who have inspired billions of people. Then it gets exponentially worse, because right after the Serena bars, Drake pivots directly to Schoolboy Q. He says, "I might hit up Schoolboy Q and do a remix, cause you put your people on but they be making peanuts. We don't ever piece it up, the stuff we got between us." Read that again, slowly. Drake is calling Schoolboy Q, multi-platinum, Grammy-recognized, stadium-filling Schoolboy Q, a peanut-level artist. He's telling Kendrick Lamar that everyone in his orbit is small, that TDE is worthless, that the entire creative empire Kendrick sacrificed to build, nurture, and elevate is beneath him. And then he wraps it with that same recycled, dusty, played-out promise that he will never squash anything. Now, let's talk about what the internet did with this, because the second these bars hit, fans turned into forensic investigators. People are dissecting every syllable, comparing flow patterns to previous Drake leaks, analyzing the production, the vocal processing, the auto-tune signatures, and the verdict is unanimous. This sounds flat, empty, lifeless. Social media is calling this some of the most bland, soul-dead production ever attached to a Drake record. The mixing reportedly sounds like it was rushed in a panic. The auto-tune feels like damage control rather than an artistic choice. And the cadences, the rhythmic patterns, the pocket he's rapping in, they sound exhausted, like a man going through the motions because he has absolutely nothing genuine left to say. But the thing that is truly setting the internet on fire is the jaw-dropping hypocrisy. Because this is the same Drake who filed lawsuits, the same Drake who tried to make courtrooms a weapon against diss tracks, who tried to fundamentally rewrite the rules of rap beef by replacing bars with legal briefs in a genre built entirely on competition, courage, and saying what you mean on the mic. And now that same guy, the man who tried to evolve rap beef into a legal procedure, is right back outside dissing by name. No subliminals, no codes, no plausible deniability. Direct, obvious, unmistakable callouts. The internet is calling him the cupcake Karen of hip-hop, and at this point, arguing against that label is becoming genuinely impossible. Because look at what Drake is actually doing. He is simultaneously the guy who sues when diss tracks bruise his ego, and the guy who drops new diss tracks when he needs an album to have a pulse. He wants the courthouse protection when he's losing, he wants the street credibility of a battle rapper when he needs clout. He wants every single piece of it cut his way. And the people are not letting that slide, not even a little bit. Now let's get into the motive, because this is where the whole thing snaps into focus. Why now? Why leak this specific track with these specific targets at this exact moment? Look at the board. The Iceman rollout is frozen solid, and not in the cool way. Nobody is talking about Drake's music. They're talking about his lawsuits, his erratic behavior, his bizarre decisions. The music itself, it's an afterthought, a footnote. Drake knows this. He knows that being the cupcake Karen of rap, the guy who calls his lawyers instead of writing better bars, is not a survivable reputation. It's embarrassing, it's soft, it's a career killer. So he has to pivot. He has to remind people that he's still a rapper. He has to prove he can still bark, even if everyone knows the bite is completely gone. But there's a darker motive underneath all of this, a motive that explains everything. Jealousy. Raw, unfiltered, all-consuming jealousy. Think about what Kendrick Lamar just did, the biggest year in hip-hop history. The pop-out, the Super Bowl, the charts, the Grammys, the culture bowing at his feet. Kendrick has everything Drake has been chasing his entire career. The genuine respect, the unshakable loyalty, the unanimous crown. Kendrick didn't buy it, he earned it, every single inch of it. And Drake? He's sitting alone in that enormous house, surrounded by yes man and employees, watching his legacy get taken apart brick by brick in real time, watching another man receive the things he convinced himself were his. That kind of public collapse hits on a level most people can't even imagine. That kind of humiliation rewires a person. It makes them bitter, it makes them obsessive, it makes them desperate. And this track is the result of that desperation. It's not a rap song, it's a spite anthem. He's not rapping to win anything anymore. He already knows he lost. He's rapping to inflict pain. He wants Kendrick, Schoolboy, Serena, Venus, all of them to feel even a fraction of what he's feeling. That's the only goal left. And let's have the real conversation about OVO, because Drake talking about peanuts is the most spectacular projection in the history of projecting. Name one OVO artist right now who is dominating anything. Take your time, we'll wait. You can't, because OVO sound is a talent graveyard. He signs artists, their careers immediately flatline. He extracts whatever clout is useful and moves on. Meanwhile, TDE, PGL, they built an actual dynasty. SZA, Kendrick, Schoolboy Q, J-Rock, Doechii, superstars, Grammys, critical respect, cultural permanence. Drake looks at that brotherhood, that genuine, earned, unbreakable family, and something in him completely breaks, because he doesn't have that. He never had that. He has employees with NDAs. Kendrick has family with loyalty, and that gap eats him alive every single day. So the motive is crystal clear. He's trying to burn down what he can never build. He can't purchase respect, so he devalues it. He can't purchase loyalty, so he tries to poison it. He's trying to convince the world that Kendrick's circle is broke and miserable, because that's the mirror he's looking into every morning. And it's pathetic. It is genuinely, embarrassingly pathetic. This is the behavior of a man who knows the clock has run out. He's throwing a tantrum like a child at a birthday party that isn't his. He took his dignity home a long time ago. The Iceman persona is a Halloween mask. Underneath is just the same frightened, insecure guy who needs the entire world to validate him every single minute. And the moment the world stopped, he snapped. He crashed out, and we are watching every second of it in brutally sharp 4K. But here's the part that genuinely hits different: the collateral damage. And this is what I need people to really sit with. It's one thing to take shots at a man who voluntarily stepped into the arena. Kendrick signed up for this sport. Schoolboy Q signed up for this sport. They understand the rules, they can handle themselves. But Serena Williams? Come on. This isn't his first time doing this. We already talked about middle of the ocean. He called her husband a groupie. And now he's dragging her sister into it? He's trying to wedge himself between two women who together represent one of the most inspiring stories in sports history. Two sisters who fought through racism, through sexism, through a lifetime of being told they didn't belong, and conquered every single room they walked into. And here comes Drake, using their names as disposable props in a rap beef they have absolutely zero stake in. Imagine being Serena Williams right now. You're living your best life, raising your daughter, building your businesses, inspiring a generation, and you have to wake up to this 37-year-old man throwing subliminal shots at you because he cannot emotionally process losing to a rapper from Compton. It is unhinged, it is weird, it is deeply uncomfortable behavior. And the pattern is impossible to ignore at this point. He goes after families. He went after Rihanna and A$AP Rocky. He went after Pusha T's wife. He targeted Kendrick's wife, Whitney. He took shots at Kanye's family structure. He has this sick, almost clinical obsession with attacking people who have love and stability that he doesn't have. It reveals a bottomless loneliness, a wound that never healed. But understanding why someone does something terrible does not make the terrible thing acceptable. Because Serena Williams is a real person. Venus Williams is a real person. They are icons, they are royalty, they are legends. And for Drake to treat them like cheap props in his little ego tantrum, it's not hip-hop, it's harassment. It's the behavior of a man who cannot accept any form of rejection from any direction. And I genuinely believe this is the part that finally turns the last remaining wave of public sympathy completely against him. Because nobody defends the homewrecker. Nobody roots for the guy trying to pit sisters against each other. And the moment people hear those bars about Venus and Serena and actually feel them, the Iceman gets dropped into a furnace permanently. Now let's circle back to the Schoolboy Q disrespect, because I'm sorry, I cannot move past this without giving it the full attention it deserves. They be making peanuts? Drake, are you actually delusional, or do you just have that deep, pathological contempt for your own audience that you believe they'll swallow anything? Schoolboy Q is a legend, full stop, no debate, no asterisk. Oxymoron, a classic. Blank Face LP, a certified masterpiece. Collard Greens, that record is still ringing off at every party, every festival, every pregame, 10 years later. Q has a catalog that most rappers would sacrifice body parts to own. He has cultural immortality already secured. And Drake is going to compare him to who, exactly? Smiley? The artist you signed who raps like he's trying to talk with his mouth wired shut? Or maybe I Love Makanen? Remember him? The guy Drake hopped on a track with, absorbed all the clout from, and then discarded like a used napkin? Reports say Makanen is working as a professional chef now. He's literally cooking food. That is the fate of OVO artists.
That is the pipeline Drake built. So talking about peanuts, Drake, your artists are the ones eating peanuts. Your artists are the ones struggling, while you use their talent to fuel your machine and then discard them when they're empty. Meanwhile, TDE artists are selling out arenas. They own their masters. They operate with integrity and artistic freedom. It is the most spectacular gaslight attempt in modern hip-hop history, projecting his own failures as a label CEO directly onto the people who embarrassed him. And let's be brutally honest about one more thing. Schoolboy Q doesn't just rap. Q raps raps. If Q decides to respond to this, if Q steps into that booth with actual intent, Drake is in genuine trouble. Because Q is not an internet rapper. Q is not a Twitter warrior. Q is from the school of no games, no warnings. He's been hibernating, he's been playing golf, he's been living his best life. And Drake is out here trying to wake that man up. Why? Does he want another Not Like Us situation? Does he want to get demolished again and have to watch another diss track break streaming records at his expense? Because if Q drops something in response to this, it's going to be ugly in a way Drake's PR team cannot manage. And the fans are already doing the work. They're pulling up the receipts, tour grosses, album sales, critical scores, proving that the Peanuts narrative isn't just wrong, it's laughably, embarrassingly wrong. But this is what living in a bubble does to a person. Drake has been surrounded by yes-men for so long that he genuinely believes Spotify streams are the only metric of human worth. Kendrick and Q measure worth by impact, by art, by permanence, and that is a language Drake has completely forgotten how to speak.
And here is where this story explodes into something much bigger than just one messy snippet. Because what we're watching unfold right now has massive implications, legally, culturally, and historically. Let's start with the legal disaster. Because remember everything Drake set in motion, the lawsuits, the cease and desists, the attempt to classify Not Like Us as defamation, the effort to make legal warfare a standard weapon in rap beef. He was building a fortress of litigation around himself. By dropping this track, by going back on offense and dissing by name, Drake has just voluntarily torched that entire fortress himself. He is publicly re-entering the arena. He is announcing to the world and to every courtroom, I am back in the fight. And that means when he gets hit back, and he will get hit back, he has no legal ground left to stand on. You cannot throw a punch, call the police, and demand they arrest the guy who hit you back. That is not how any of this works. So if Kendrick drops another nuclear response, if Schoolboy Q comes with something devastating, Drake has to absorb it. He has stripped himself of his own shield. And the question that should terrify his team right now is, did anyone in his legal circle sign off on this? Or is he genuinely going completely rogue? Because any attorney with a functioning brain cell would look at this situation and say, under absolutely no circumstances do you release this track. And yet, here we are. This confirms beyond any reasonable doubt that the crash out is real. He is choosing his wounded ego over every rational strategic interest he has. He is choosing to feel something, even if that something is petty and destructive, over protecting his career, his legacy, and his legal position. And the broader industry is locked in watching this happen. They're watching someone who was considered untouchable make the kind of rookie mistakes that rookies don't even make. This makes him look vulnerable in a way that is going to attract every single rapper who has ever had a grievance, a score to settle, or an opportunity to make a name. The fear is evaporating in real time. Nobody is intimidated by the Iceman anymore. They see a man flailing, a man so desperate for attention that he'd rather get destroyed publicly than be ignored quietly. We are officially transitioning from the beef era to the aftermath era. And the aftermath is catastrophic for Drake. He is burning relationships he cannot rebuild. He is alienating casual fans who just wanted good music. He is volunteering to become the villain, not the compelling kind, not the fascinating kind, the sad, cautionary kind. This is a warning to every artist watching. The moment ego takes the wheel, the car goes off the cliff, and Drake is currently doing 100 miles per hour directly into a concrete wall, with the whole world watching the live stream. Let's have the completely honest conversation about the music. The Iceman rollout is not struggling. It is not underwhelming. It is a disaster of historic proportions. and I am calling it right now, on record, officially. This album is going to flop. Not just commercially, culturally, completely and irreversibly. Maybe the first week numbers look decent. The bots will handle that. They always do. But in terms of actual cultural penetration, in terms of people genuinely caring, streaming voluntarily, talking about it because they love it, it is looking like a meltdown of unprecedented scale. Every snippet we have heard sounds worse than the one before it. The auto-tune is working overtime to cover something that isn't there. The flows feel recycled from better versions of himself that he can't find anymore. The lyrics are petty, small, and hollow. There is no creative vision present. There is no artistic direction. There is just a man throwing material at a wall in the desperate hope that gravity doesn't apply to him. And this diss track strategy, it is the absolute last card in a depleted hand. If Drake wasn't name-dropping Kendrick, if he wasn't manufacturing controversy around Serena and Q, would anyone be paying attention to the Iceman rollout? Be completely honest with yourself. No, we would all be talking about the Super Bowl. We would be talking about real music. Drake is renting Kendrick's cultural electricity because his own power grid has completely shut down. He used to be the trendsetter. He used to be the sun that every other artist orbited. Now he's chasing heat from the man who embarrassed him publicly. He used to set the culture's agenda. Now the culture has moved on, and he's sprinting behind it, screaming for it to slow down. The jester is doing his whole routine at full speed, and the crowd isn't laughing. They're just watching with a kind of uncomfortable pity. And I believe with everything in me that when we look back on this in 5 years, we are going to point to Iceman as the exact moment it became officially, permanently, irreversibly over. Because you cannot build a body of work on spite. You cannot build an album on hate and jealousy and wounded pride. The energy is rancid. The foundation is rotten. And people are not going to voluntarily spend time inside something that makes them feel secondhand embarrassment for a billionaire who cannot emotionally move on. Because that's what this really is. Strip away the bars, strip away the snippets, strip away all the manufactured drama. This is a breakup album. Not a breakup with a woman, a breakup with the culture itself. A culture that chose someone else. A culture that found its new voice, fell in love with it, and didn't look back. And the culture's response to this album is going to be 2 words: bye. Stay locked in, because this situation is accelerating, not slowing down. New details are surfacing every hour. New clues are appearing every few minutes, and there are reports circulating right now that Schoolboy Q has already been spotted in the studio. Drop everything you're thinking in the comments right now. Does Drake making these moves against Serena and Q feel like genius or madness? Is this new track fire, or is it one of the worst things you've ever heard come out of his camp? And here's the question that I genuinely want your answer on. Does Kendrick even need to respond, or does he just let the Iceman finish melting all on his own? I want your honest thoughts. Like this video if you think Drake is in complete freefall. Leave that like so the algorithm knows people care about this story. Hit subscribe because we are tracking every single development in this saga around the clock. Turn on notifications right now because if Schoolboy Q drops, you better believe we will have the full breakdown up within the hour. And before you go, if you want to see something that will completely rewire how you think about this entire beef, click the video on your screen right now. It breaks down a hidden 50-cent diss that Kendrick buried inside his last track that has been sitting right in front of everyone for months. Nobody caught it. Not the blogs, not the channels, nobody. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. It proves that while Drake is playing emotional checkers, Kendrick has been playing 4D chess the entire time, and none of us even knew the game was happening. Click it, watch it, stay safe, and whatever you do, don't crash out like the cupcake Karen. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.